but I will not be returning to play this season. I spent hours in the gym every day with the singular goal of getting back out there. Disappointed isn't a big enough word to describe how I'm feeling. I want to thank everyone who has had my back through all this uncertainty. This has been incredibly frustrating, but even in the bad, there is good. And the way the fans continue to show up for me and for the Fever brought me so much joy and important perspective. I'm so proud of how this team has only gotten stronger through adversity this year. Now it's time to close out the season and claim our spot in the play.
Alright, so the WNBA just got a huge wake-up call, and it's all thanks to Caitlin Clark. Seriously, the ratings are just falling apart, faster than you can imagine. And get this, ticket sales are tanking right along with them. It really feels like the league's credibility is shaking a bit, and honestly, besides the Indiana Fever, every other team's hopes are basically sinking like a rock.
Heartbreaking news for Indiana Fever fans that could come of the season, but Caitlin Clark will not be returning to the 2025 WNBA season. She took the liberty of posting it herself because there were many people asking to hear from Caitlin Clark, to hear how she felt about the entire situation, because a lot of people felt like it was the front office that was kind of making all of these.
Listen, one Caitlin Clark season-ending injury announcement and suddenly that whole historic growth tagline for the WNBA, it just sounds like a really weak pitch from someone who's super tired. The truth is that initial shine, it's gone. The buzz is definitely fading, and the owners aren't just a little worried, they're straight up spiraling. Forget just being concerned, we're talking full-blown panic mode here, and it's spreading through the league super fast.
Ignored by the media, largely ignored by sports media, not considered a real professional league, to the point where people didn't even know it existed until CC22. That's just a fact. You can't believe how many times I have people come in the chat and say, I didn't even know that there was a professional women's basketball league until Caitlin. Yeah, it's the facts.
So, the Queen herself is officially out for the entire year, and now league executives are totally in chaos. After all those weeks of really vague updates, tons of speculation, and just whispers with no clear timeline, Caitlin Clark finally dropped the news everyone was dreading. She basically said, I will not be returning this season. And just like that, the WNBA's absolute worst case scenario became real.
To get back on the floor, it appears that she just ran out of time, not able to get enough confidence back in her body as the season wraps up and the playoffs are likely about to begin for Indiana. I mean, it's a gut punch that basically encompasses an entire season of them. The Fever have lost so many players to injury, but obviously none bigger than Clark. And there was such a weight for this second season after her magnificent rookie season. And then, you know, the anticipation of her possibly coming back only for that.
Now the Fever can finally give up on that idea of a miracle return. There's no schedule, no timeline. It's just this huge empty space where the league's biggest star used to be. And get this, the fallout is totally real now. This panic isn't just in Indiana anymore. It's basically racing through all the WNBA front offices and boardrooms like a wildfire, leaving everyone feeling totally desperate.
The Minnesota Lynx supposedly, and then the Scott Agneses and all them start talking about she suffered a bone bruise in Phoenix. I told y'all it was a wrap. It was done. It was done. They knew it. And I believe they've known far longer. They have known. They've kept us fans in the dark, and it sucks. It absolutely sucks. Man, I was so looking forward to watching Caitlin Clark play this season. Now we have to wait an entire offseason, and we don't even know what's gonna happen. There might be a lockout. There might not even be a 2026 season, guys.
So let's just look at the numbers for a second. When Caitlin Clark was out there, just lighting up the court, the Indiana Fever were pulling in an average of 1.26 million viewers per game. But then July 15th happened, that groin injury, and suddenly, national broadcast dropped all the way down to 47,000. That's a massive 53% nosedive, right? A huge reality check. And remember, those numbers were when fans still had some hope she might come back. Now that Clark has officially shut down for the season, honestly, the real collapse probably hasn't even started yet. You better brace yourself, because the WNBA isn't just looking at a small dip here. They're staring down a full-blown void.
Disaster as far as public perception for the WNBA. An entirely new group of people started tuning in to this league for one player and one player only. In fact, so many new people tuned into this league, the viewership for the Caitlin Clark games largely surpassed anything else going on in the WNBA. I would argue that the amount of Caitlin Clark fans are at least 3x the amount of WNBA.
Honestly, the WNBA without Caitlin Clark, it barely even feels like a professional league anymore. It's more like a support group for players wondering why nobody's bothering to tune in. The league really had a chance to show they could hold their own while she was out, but man, the numbers were just brutal. NBA TV broadcast actually tanked by 40% without her. And for games without Clark, they only averaged about 549,000 viewers, which is still a huge 37% lower than what she brings in all by herself. That gap between her games and everyone else's is so obvious, it's almost funny, but it's not funny for them. This isn't just one superstar taking a break, it's like the league's whole marketing strategy is just falling apart right now. Executives are terrified because the very foundation they built everything on is starting to crack wide open.
Just how much she means to everybody that buys those tickets. I mean, I would say at least like 90 to maybe not 95, but like 90% of the people in arenas were there to see Caitlin Clark, which of course they became fans of the Fever afterwards, but you know, Caitlin Clark is the draw. And then here's this one where she's actually in her street clothes, and yeah, these are, you know, pretty heartfelt photos, her in the huddle with her teammates. But I gotta say, this was quite a year. I mean, there came a certain point where people, including myself, were just like, what is actually going on? I think that it's time. It was definitely time to tell fans.
Okay, so Commissioner Kathy Engelbert can say Caitlin Clark is the most popular athlete in America all day long, but that kind of title? It comes with a really terrifying responsibility when your whole league's success depends on just one person's health. Suddenly, every single injury turns into an existential crisis, right? The WNBA spent decades trying to build something sustainable, and then Clark just showed up, and seriously, she single-handedly became the difference between being relevant and totally irrelevant. Now just picture the viewership for the WNBA playoff finals, because Caitlin Clark isn't even going to be in them. The Indiana Fever, who are barely holding on to an 8th place playoff spot at 21-20, probably won't even make it now that Clark is sidelined for the season. This team was supposed to be a championship contender, and now they're fighting for their playoff lives without their floor general, their marketing powerhouse, and their superstar who sells all the tickets.
Will be either a first round exit or may not make the playoffs. I really believe that Mystics game is a trap game. Also, I don't know if they have all the pieces anymore now with Chloe Bibby out for the rest of the season, another random player, but we drafted her. We kind of know her, but still, she wasn't part of the team for the majority of the season. And then Aerial Powers and Odyssey Sims and Shea Petty. Who are these people? You know what I'm saying? The Indiana Fever are no longer the Indiana Fever.
The economic impact of Clark being out, it's seriously staggering. A sports economist named Ryan Brewer even projected her economic impact could hit $1 billion this season. And that's not just from basketball revenue. We're talking merchandising, tourism, those big TV deals, and everything else that comes with someone being a total cultural phenomenon. Meanwhile, other players are still over here trying to figure out how to turn their social media numbers into actual money. The thing is, the difference between Clark and everyone else isn't just about who's better at basketball. It's about pure star power, marketability, and that unique ability to just make people actually care about women's basketball. But here's where it gets really interesting. This absolute panic that's spreading across the league. You've got players who spent this whole season throwing shade at Clark, literally committing flagrant fouls like they were collecting trading cards. And now, they're basically watching empty arenas echo with the sound of their own desperation. All that petty jealousy we've seen in the league, it's about to become way more obvious because that spotlight just dimmed, probably permanently, for 2025. The targeting she faced was real, and honestly, those injuries were probably inevitable. Now the consequences are hitting way harder than any flagrant foul. Clark took more physical abuse than anyone else in the league. And when your whole marketing strategy relies on one person, you seriously have to protect that investment. But the league totally failed, and now they're paying the price with empty seats and broadcasts getting canceled.
True, because it was just announced that Caitlin Clark will be out for the rest of the season. She's only played 13 games this season, and her most recent injury, which happened back in July, was a groin injury. The craziest part about all of this has been the reporting around her injury. The team has never given her a timetable for return, and literally up until today, the team had been reporting that she was still trying to get back on the court this season. The Fever only have 3 regular season games left in the season before playoffs. Some fans were even speculating that they've just been stringing fans along the whole time because they know that ratings and attendance would drop once they announce that she's out, which is also so ironic that they announced it the day that football season starts.
Let's just be super honest about what actually happened when Clark was out injured. The league totally tried to create drama with other storylines, but fans just weren't buying it. I mean, Angel Reese's matchups without Clark, they were drawing crowds smaller than a high school JV game, which is wild. The Chicago Sky, who basically built their whole season around being Clark's rival, suddenly found themselves playing for only 6,000 people instead of the 20,000 they needed when the Fever came to town. And when Clark got hurt before their June game, those ticket prices, they plummeted from $86 down to $25 in just 48 hours. That's not just a small dip, that's a full-blown market collapse. The desperation during her absence was seriously palpable. Teams were moving games to bigger venues, totally expecting her to play, and then they couldn't move them back when she got injured. The Washington Mystics, for example, moved their game to Baltimore to fit huge Clark crowds, only to see ticket prices crash from $41 to just $14 when she couldn't play. It's a masterclass in how quickly hype can vanish when your entire marketing strategy hinges on just one person. And now, for the final blow. Clark's season-ending announcement comes at the absolute worst time for playoff positioning. The Fever, who were championship contenders with her, are now just fighting to make the 8th seed. ESPN's Power Index gives them a 97.4% chance of making the playoffs, but that's a huge if, assuming they can keep up their current pace without their best player, their main offensive threat, and their biggest crowd magnet.
A complete train wreck. This season's been a complete disaster. We got the GOAT, who only played 13 games, missed basically the whole season. DeWanna Bonner scammed us. Natasha Howard basically scammed us. Stephanie White's a liar. Amber Cox is a liar. Kelly Krauskopf's a liar. Now we have to go a whole offseason with the front office we don't trust, we don't believe in, we can't believe anything they say, and we don't know what's really going to happen with Caitlin Clark's health.
You really can't overstate the psychological impact of Clark's announcement. Honestly, fans who spent months buying tickets, planning entire trips, and tuning in every single game, they're now saying exactly what the league feared the most. If she's out, then I'm out. And all those casual fans who just discovered women's basketball because of Clark's incredible college dominance, yeah, they're gone. The corporate sponsors who were so quick to jump on the Caitlin Clark bandwagon, they're definitely rethinking their investments right now. And those TV networks that basically built their programming around Fever games, they're totally scrambling for backup content. But here's the really scary thing for the WNBA. If just her injury could single-handedly crash the league's viewership and attendance like that, what is her season-ending announcement going to do to playoff ratings? Honestly, the WNBA Finals without Clark involved could be a disaster of epic proportions. Networks that were counting on record-breaking playoff numbers are now getting ready for the tough reality that casual fans don't actually care about Liberty versus Lynx. They cared about Caitlin Clark versus everyone.
a Liberty game, that's when they should have said, we need to wait this out until the All-Star break. But instead, they worried about their ticket sales, TV ratings, and all this stuff. So they actually had Caitlin Clark come back a couple weeks earlier than expected, and I think that's the real reason why she's out. They mismanaged this entire season. I don't respect the GM. I don't respect the president anymore. I really don't respect the coach. They all lied on false pretense. That's all they did. They kept lying and lying and kept stringing Caitlin Clark like a carrot on a string, and all these fans kept going to the games hoping that she'll come back.
The ripple effects of all this go way beyond just basketball. Television networks are already totally repositioning themselves for what looks like a ratings apocalypse. ESPN and ABC, who actually saw their WNBA ratings crash by a massive 55% the last time Clark was out, are now looking at an entire playoff run without their biggest draw. These are the same networks that basically built their whole women's basketball coverage around Clark, and they're about to get a serious reminder of why they needed her way more than she ever needed them. But here's the most incredible part of this whole situation. Caitlin Clark is an absolute queen for making this announcement exactly when she did. She totally could have strung the league along, kept everyone's hopes up, and continued that whole charade that maybe, just maybe, she might come back for the playoffs. Instead, she delivered the death blow to their season with total precision, telling everyone exactly what they absolutely didn't want to hear. She's done. The Fever's championship hopes are completely over, and let's just say the WNBA's golden goose is officially cooked.
Also for the entire WNBA, Caitlin was out with an injury back in June. Viewership dropped over 50% across the league. That's the kind of effect that she has on things. And it seems like from her post and how they announced it, Caitlin was the one that was trying so hard to get back on the court. She has traveled to every single away game. She's always meeting with fans, taking photos, signing autographs, doing all of the things because she knows how many people come out specifically to see her. But I'm really interested to see what viewership and attendance looks like now that it's official that she's done. The hope is gone.
The league spent months trying to tell everyone they were growing beyond just one player. But Clark's announcement, it just totally exposed that as the marketing myth it always was. Without Clark, the WNBA basically goes right back to what it was before she showed up, a niche product for a really dedicated fan base, struggling to fill 10,000 seats, and with viewership numbers that barely even show up on TV executives' radar. So her announcement isn't just bad news for the Fever, it's a full-blown existential crisis for the entire league. The WNBA literally built their whole 2025 marketing campaign around her return, their big television contracts around her games, and all their attendance projections around her star power. And now, they're left holding these expensive pieces of paper for playoff games that honestly nobody really wants to see. And here's the absolute worst part for the WNBA. This was totally preventable if they had actually protected their investment, managed her minutes smartly, and put her health first instead of just grabbing quick revenue. Clark might still be healthy and ready for a playoff run. Instead, they let her get targeted, abused, and ultimately injured so badly that she just can't come back. It's like a masterclass in how to totally destroy your own golden goose.
Circle moment for the WNBA. With all the chatter of Kathy Engelbert saying, oh, if one player gets injured, one player, well, you have it. That one player got injured. And now you have it. There's no conversation around the league. No positive, no negative, no conversation at all. The only media talking about the WNBA are the content creators, are the YouTubers, are people with podcasts, people with their own shows, etc., etc. But you go on to ESPN, nobody's talking about the W. You go on to Fox Sports, nobody's talking about the W. The WNBA has managed to turn off a fan base that would have elevated this league into a...
So yeah, fans are just shrugging their shoulders and saying, you know what, if she's out, I'm out too. Those casual viewers that Caitlin Clark brought to the WNBA, they're basically disappearing for good now. Sponsors are quietly starting to rethink their deal, networks are getting ready for ratings to totally tank, and league executives are finally facing the truth that everyone else has already seen. Caitlin Clark wasn't just the biggest star, she was the product. She made her move, and now the league just has to live with all the fallout. And spoiler alert, without her, this postseason isn't going to feel historic or groundbreaking at all. It's going to feel really empty, like a long cold stretch where the WNBA's brightest light is just nowhere to be found.
Dude, Jason Whitlock saying he's done. He's out. We've got Colin Cowherd saying, you know what? Guess what I didn't talk about on my show this year? The WNBA. Guess why? He just come out and said it yesterday. Because Caitlin Clark was not playing. That's why. He said, I led my show, my biggest, largest national sports radio show in the country. I led my show with Caitlin Clark 6 times last year. I mean, you don't lead a show with anybody unless...
Honestly, this might just be the harshest move Caitlin Clark could have possibly made against the WNBA. And you know what? It actually makes her look like a total queen while she's doing it. Sometimes the strongest statement you can make isn't even on the court. It's stepping away and just letting the league totally collapse under its own weight. The panic is absolutely real that ratings cliff is definitely coming, and Clark just gets to watch all this chaos unfold from the sidelines with a bit of a grin. The WNBA is about to come face to face with one of the most painful truths in sports. If you're gonna build your entire empire around one superstar, you better make sure you keep that star healthy and satisfied. They completely failed on both counts, and now the league is staring at a future without its golden goose. Spoiler alert, the picture is not pretty at all. It's downright bleak.